Dr. Esai Valstrom's hands trembled as she manipulated the holographic projection. The stellar anomaly dataset, previously dismissed as instrument error, now revealed something that would shatter the foundations of astrophysics. "Kip, are you seeing this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft hum of the observatory's cooling systems. Kipriani Namzev looked up from her own terminal, dark circles under her eyes after their 72-hour analysis marathon. "The probability of this pattern occurring naturally is 1 in 7 trillion, Esai finished. "This isn't random. Someone or something has been manipulating stellar life cycles." Their discovery began with a routine survey of white dwarf stars. SIE had noticed discrepancies in their cooling rates, subtle variations that shouldn't exist according to standard stellar evolution models. Some stars were aging too slowly, others too quickly. Individually, each anomaly could be dismissed, but collectively, they formed a pattern too precise to ignore. The implications were staggering. Whoever created this pattern possessed technology to manipulate stellar evolution on a scale impossible by current scientific understanding, extending or shortening the lifespan of stars across thousands of light years. The pattern, Kip's voice faltered as the three-dimensional map rotated before them. "It's pointing somewhere." Captain Tamerlis Vorak stood on the bridge of the Iunctu Astrorum, humanity's most advanced research vessel, staring at the distant speck of light that represented their destination. 6 months of faster-than-light travel had brought them to the outer rim of the Milky Way, following coordinates derived from the stellar manipulation pattern. "We're approaching the final waypoint, Captain," reported navigator Lujul Dharam, her fingers dancing across the navigational interface. "ETA 18 minutes. Tamerlis nodded, fighting to keep his expression neutral despite the anxiety gnawing at his insides. The United Solar Consortium had authorized this expedition only after heated debate. Half the scientific community believed they were chasing phantoms. The other half feared they were rushing headlong toward first contact with a civilization capable of engineering stars. Dr. Esai Valstrom joined him at the viewport, her thin frame almost ghostly in the starlight. "Whatever we find out there, it's been waiting for us for a very long time." "You still believe these are breadcrumbs, not a territorial marker or warning?" Tamerlis asked. "The pattern is too deliberate, too educational. Each anomalous star contains timing variations that, when assembled, create a mathematical sequence pointing precisely here." SI gestured toward the distant coordinates. "This isn't a boundary marker. It's an invitation." "Xenolinguist." Dr. Braxos Ninth approached, his weathered face taut with excitement. "And not just any invitation. The mathematical constants embedded in the sequence are uniquely human. Whoever created this knew exactly who would be reading it." The implications hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. They might not be meeting aliens after all. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, announced Lujul. The star field blurred, then snapped back into focus. Before them hung a solitary object. Not a celestial body, but clearly artificial. A perfect dodecahedron, approximately 3 kilometers across, its dark surface absorbing rather than reflecting light, making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. "No energy signatures," reported Security Chief Baylor Mekoven, her voice tight. "No radiation. No electromagnetic emissions. For all intents and purposes, it appears dormant." "Oh, waiting," whispered Esai. The exploration team assembled in the shuttle bay, Tamerlis, Esai, Braxos, Baylor, and quantum engineer Dr. Jaron Vok. Their environmental suits were the most advanced human technology could produce, though Tamerlis doubted they would offer much protection if the artifact proved hostile. "Remember," Tamerlis instructed as they boarded the shuttle, "first contact protocols remain in effect, even if we suspect a human origin. We observe, we document, but we interact only if necessary for the mission's safety. The journey to the artifact took 17 minutes. As they approached, its surface revealed intricate geometric patterns etched into the material, a substance that defied initial spectroscopic analysis. "The patterns are mathematical," Braxos noted, scanning the surface with his instruments. They're prime number sequences, quantum field equations, and... Wait, his voice caught. "That's impossible." "What is it?" Tamulus demanded. "There's a star chart etched here. It's our solar system, but wrong. The stellar positions match projections for approximately 4.3 million years in the future." Silence engulfed the shuttle as the implications sank in. A seam appeared in the artifact's surface as they hovered 50 meters away, widening into an entrance large enough to accommodate their vessel. "That settles it," muttered Baylor. "It's expecting us." "Take us in," Tamulus ordered after a moment's hesitation. Slowly. The interior was a single massive chamber, illuminated by soft light emanating from the walls themselves. At the center floated a spherical object approximately 2 meters in diameter, suspended in what appeared to be a controlled gravitational field. They docked the shuttle and entered the chamber. The air, to everyone's surprise, was breathable, with a composition identical to Earth standard, though sterile and lacking the organic compounds typically found in natural environments. The floating sphere pulsed gently as they approached, its surface shifting like liquid metal. "It's a data repository," Zirin said, instruments trained on the object. "Quantum storage on a scale I've never seen before. The information density is astronomical." Esai stepped forward, drawn to the sphere as if in a trance. "It's the culmination of the stellar map. Whatever message was important enough to manipulate stars to preserve, it's in there." As if responding to her words, the sphere's surface rippled, and a figure materialized before them. A holographic projection of a woman in clothing unlike any contemporary design, yet recognizably human. "Greetings, explorers," the figure said, her voice echoing strangely in the chamber. "If you are witnessing this message, you have successfully decoded the Stellar Cipher. I am Dr. Nalani Osirk, temporal engineer of the 5th Consortium of Earth, date stamp 6437912 CE by your calendar." Tamulus heard Braxos's sharp intake of breath. More than 4 million years in the future. "The technology to manipulate stellar evolution was developed in our era as a desperate measure against cosmic entropy," the hologram continued. "We call ourselves the custodians, those tasked with preserving human knowledge across deep time." The hologram gestured, and the chamber filled with images. A vastly changed Earth, orbital megastructures, technology beyond comprehension. All civilizations face information death. Digital storage degrades, physical repositories erode, languages become forgotten. Even with our technology, we cannot prevent the loss of human history and knowledge across millions of years. But stars can carry messages that span epochs. "They use the stars as a permanent archive," whispered Esai, awestruck. "The ultimate time capsule. We seeded the galaxy with these repositories, encoded their locations within the very lifespans of carefully selected stars. Each contains the sum total of human knowledge at our time, our science, our art, our history, including yours." The hologram's expression grew solemn. "I do not know what challenges your era faces. Perhaps you are in your golden age, perhaps you struggle for survival, but whatever your circumstance, you now have access to the accumulated wisdom of over 4 million years of human civilization." "Why?" Tamulus found himself asking, though he knew the hologram couldn't hear. "Why go to such lengths?" As if anticipating the question, the hologram continued. "You may wonder why we undertook this monumental task. The answer is simple, yet profound. Humanity has a tendency to repeat its mistakes. Civilizations rise and fall in cycles of progress and regression. By encoding our collective knowledge into the very fabric of stellar evolution, we ensure that no matter how far humanity might fall, the path to recovery remains accessible. The repository before you contains our gift, a complete record of human achievement, including technologies that may seem impossible to your understanding. Access it wisely. The hologram's form began to fade. You are not the first to find one of our repositories, nor will you be the last. Throughout time, whenever humanity reaches the threshold of understanding stellar manipulation, they rediscover our network. You are part of an endless conversation across deep time. Remember us. Remember yourselves. The stars remember everything. With those words, the hologram vanished, leaving the 5 explorers in stunned silence. 3 days later, the team had barely scratched the surface of the repository's contents. The quantum storage device contained enough information to keep the entire scientific community busy for centuries. Technological blueprints, historical records, philosophical treatises, artistic works from civilizations risen and fallen long after their own time. Esai sat alone in the observation lounge of the Iunctio Astrorum, watching the artifact through the viewport. The initial shock had given way to a profound melancholy that she couldn't quite articulate. "Troubled thoughts?" Tamerlus asked, entering the lounge with 2 cups of synthetic coffee. "I've been studying the stellar engineering techniques," she said, accepting the cup. "The mathematics behind it. It's beautiful, elegant. With the right equipment, we could extend the life of a dying star by millions of years, or hasten a dangerous one's transition to a state. That's remarkable. But that's not what disturbs me." Esai turned to face him. "According to the repository's historical records, our civilization, this one right now, is designated pre-collapse era 7. We're the 7th iteration of advanced human civilization. There were 6 before us that reached similar technological heights, then collapsed for various reasons. Resource depletion, war, environmental catastrophe." Tamerlus felt a chill. "And after us?" "At least 19 more cycles of rise and fall before the custodians emerge in the far future. Each time humanity rebuilds, rediscovers, reaches for the stars, and then falls again." Tamerlus stared out at the distant stars, each one now a potential message from the future. "Is that our destiny, then? To build and collapse in an endless cycle?" "That's why they created the repositories," Esai said softly. "To break the cycle eventually. Each time a civilization discovers a repository, they gain access to more knowledge than the previous iteration. Each recovery may be more complete than the last." "Progress across deep time," Tamerlus murmured. "Exactly. They couldn't prevent the collapses, but they could ensure that each rebirth had a higher starting point." Esai gestured toward the stellar map displayed on her tablet. "There are hundreds more repositories scattered throughout the galaxy, each with different specializations, waiting to be found. So what do we do with this knowledge if history suggests we're headed for collapse regardless?" Esai's eyes gleamed with the first real hope he'd seen since their discovery. "We use it to prove them wrong. We become the iteration that breaks the cycle." "How?" "We start by understanding what collapsed those previous civilizations. The repository contains detailed analyses of each downfall. Then we use the custodian's stellar engineering techniques, not to create our own messages yet, but to extend the lifespan of our own sun, to buy humanity more time." Tamerlus considered this. "The consortium will want to classify everything. They'll see stellar engineering as a weapon. Then we don't give them that choice." Esai's voice was firm. The hologram said it herself. "We're part of an endless conversation across time. We need to join that conversation, not hide it." In the distance, the artifact hung against the backdrop of stars, a message in a bottle from humanity's distant descendants, casting its shadow across the present. The custodians didn't just give us knowledge, Esai said. They gave us responsibility. We know now that we're being watched, not by aliens, but by our own future. Every star we see might be part of their message. Every stellar anomaly might be their attempt to guide us. Tamerlus nodded slowly. We should name it. Name what? This discovery, this moment. He gestured toward the artifact. If we're going to share it with humanity, it needs a name people can grasp. Esai thought for a moment, then smiled. The Stellar Cipher. The code written in the stars by our descendants, waiting through the eons for us to be clever enough to read it. As they prepared to return to Earth with their world-changing discovery, the stars seemed to watch them with new significance. A vast network of cosmic breadcrumbs, leading humanity not forward or backward, but inward upon itself, in an eternal loop of remembrance and rediscovery. In the endless dark between galaxies, other repositories waited, their positions encoded in the very lifespans of the stars, patient guardians of human knowledge against the ultimate enemy, time itself.